Hello, everybody. Dr. Lonnie Stewart here from the Healthcare Education Transformation Podcast. Are you a physical therapy student about to start studying for the National Physical Therapy Examination? Or maybe you're a professor, or program director, or clinical instructor who teaches DPT students preparing for the NPTE? Either way, we would recommend checking out our sponsor, NPTE Final Frontier, and the community they've built around preparing for and succeeding on the NPTE. That exam and the preparation that goes along with it can be long, tedious, difficult, and stress inducing, but it doesn't have to be. NPTE Final Frontier has the tactics and resources to help address all of the usual barriers. They even have scholarships to help with NPTE study courses, FSBPT registration fees, and even research opportunities. And if that's not enough, they're even donating to the very first annual HET Podcast Scholarship to be awarded at the end of every year. Go to npteff.com for all of the details and use code HET for 10% off all purchases. Links to both the NPTE Final Frontier and their scholarship options are available in the show notes. And now, let's get ready to learn.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Healthcare Education Transformation Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Scott Feil, and I've got a very special episode for you today. This is the Failure to Success episode, one that we've been talking about doing for a while now. We've got a bunch of stories of brave, bold leaders in the world of physical therapy who have failed their NPTE exam or failed a course or just had a major failure in life and yet still came back to have very successful careers, to show you that failure is not the end. It's not the end all be all. It doesn't mean that it's over. It's just a minor bump in the road. It's a little speed bump that you've got to get over. You've got to pick yourself up. And most of all, you've got to learn from it. My story starts as an English major, obviously, at Wake Forest University. Graduated from there, but didn't have any direction in life, didn't know what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go. And so my senior year, I started volunteering at the hospital in Winston-Salem there at Baptist Hospital. They put me in the physical therapy department. Really enjoyed it. I liked seeing the patients they worked with and the treatments they did. I worked just filing away some files on home exercise programs and things like that in the physical therapy gym. But it was awesome. I loved it until I saw all the prerequisites that were required and the fact that I had almost none of them. So I had to go back after I graduated and do about a full year worth of math and science just to get into PT school. So I get into PT school finally. It was a master's program at the time at East Carolina University. Finished my master's in 2 years, stuck around for the third year for the transitional doctorate. But my dad kind of got sick and had some health problems at the time. I moved back in with my mom and dad to kind of help out with some of that. I started studying for my board exam, which I took once as a master's student after I finished my master's program. I knew I was going to be sticking around for the transitional doctorate, so I was in no real rush to take that exam and pass it. So I figured I'll just give it a shot. Let me see what happens. So we took it my first time. I missed it by one question. All right, I figured no big deal. I was close. I didn't study that much. I just kind of stepped up and took it to see where I was at. So started the transitional doctorate program, started studying my tail off for the exam and took it a second time in the middle of the TDPT. And I did about 5 or 6 questions worse the second time. I got worse somehow. After studying a ton, I just did worse. So now I'm freaking out because South Carolina is where my family was. They were in Charleston. That's where I wanted to work and live and be for the rest of my life. And they had a 3-strike rule at the time where if you failed the exam 3 times, you couldn't work in the state of South Carolina. Now, with the compact and all that, and things may have changed at this point, so I don't really know. There were other options I didn't know at the time, like working at a VA. I could have worked at a VA with any state license and just transferred into the state of South Carolina, but I didn't really do that much of a deep dive on it back then. I should have. After, studying for the board exam for my third time, I really started ramping up my own stress level. I had testing anxiety anyway, had ADHD and didn't even know. I was only recently diagnosed with ADHD within the last 2 years or so. So that was new to me. But in hindsight, it makes sense why a lot of this went the way it did. And so I failed the exam a third time. So now I can't work in the state of South Carolina. I feel like my life is over and oh my goodness, what am I going to do? How am I going to pass this exam? Turns out that, things happen for a reason. I picked myself up, dusted myself off, finished the transitional doctorate with everything except for my capstone project. And then my dad's health took a turn for the worse. He ended up having some heart problems and ended up passing away. And I wasn't able to finish the capstone project in time to graduate with my transitional doctorate. So now I failed the test 3 times. I didn't finish my transitional doctorate. I had lost my dad. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't even know if I wanted to be a physical therapist anymore. As a matter of fact, I was working as a tech, a PT tech at the hospital where he passed away. And I had to walk down the hall and clock in and clock out every time, walking past the room where he passed away at the hospital I worked at. So that was pretty brutal, took a toll on me, but eventually I dusted myself off. I picked myself up again, buckled down, studied some more. And this time I kind of realized that I would be getting it down to like 2 right answers toward the end, my best 2 guesses. And I would flip flop back and forth between my first guess and my second guess. And inevitably I end up switching my answer and going to my second guess. So it wasn't until I stopped doing that and just trusted my gut instinct that I finally passed my NPTE exam. Since then, I've gone on to finish the TDPT and get my doctorate in physical therapy. I ended up getting a doctorate in education. I started my own businesses. I have 3 businesses that all kind of fall under the umbrella of one major business. I've been a PT for over 15, 16 years now. Worked in every population you can imagine, specializing really with geriatrics in the last 5 or 6 years, home health, skilled nursing facilities, assisted living facilities, and then my own cash pay practice. I've now transitioned into academia full time with the help of my educational doctorate, and I've been thriving and just loving that as well. So, the dissertation process was another failure of mine. It took me probably almost a extra year or year and a half to finish my EDD because of my dissertation. That was a mess. And they finally dragged me across the finish line, kicking and screaming. But again, I got it done, right? I've had a very successful career and one that I've thoroughly enjoyed and really loved. And it's all because of really the stick-to-itiveness, if you will, right? The grit, the tenacity to just get back up after these failures, learn from them what you can, and just keep attacking it until you reach your goals and your dreams. I hope my story is, somewhat inspiring to some people who may have failed their exam and realize it's not that big of a deal. It's not an end all be all. It's not the end of life. It's just a minor speed bump in the road. You can do it. You can still pass this exam, go on to have a great career. And if I can do it, anybody can. Trust me. I hope my story is inspiring. I hope the stories of these other people that have shared their story are inspiring to you. These brave, amazing leaders and people that I look up to in the profession. They've had great careers and they didn't pass their board exam the first time either. So it's going to be okay. I hope that you'll watch these stories and you'll take away some lessons from them and just overall enjoy them and really thank them for sharing their story and showing people that failure is not the end of the world, especially on an NPTE exam. A standardized test doesn't show how great of a clinician you can be. It's just one of those things that kind of shows that you can perform safely as a clinician. So once you finish that and you've got your license, it's all up to you what you want to make of it. So I hope this was helpful. Hope you enjoy the rest of these stories, and we'll see you on the next one.
Hey, what's up, guys? Bert here, physical therapist, founder of Rehabpreneur, and today I'm going to share with you my failure story. So I'm sharing this video to encourage the ones who have failed their exams when taking the NPTE. I've been a therapist since 1998, and we're 2023 today, so this is my 25th year as a physical therapist. But the journey wasn't that easy, okay? So as most of you know, some friends and colleagues have seen me online and stuff. I'm an immigrant. I'm from the Philippines, and I came here fourth quarter of 1997. So just to give you a background, before I took my first exam, I got married in the Philippines to my beautiful wife. And that was August 31st, 1997. Same day Princess Diana passed away. I still remember that vividly. But anyway, I had to leave 3 weeks after our wedding. So I'm still in the honeymoon phase. 3 weeks after our wedding, I have to leave because I have a contract to fulfill. I was on a temporary license as a physical therapist. I was working for a company in Florida. With that said, when took my first exam, I failed. I failed because I so miss my wife, culture shock, you name it, all the excuses I can think of, right? There's a ton of excuses I can think of, but ultimately that hurt. It really hurt. The first time I failed really hurt because I'm an overachiever. I'm always in the top 5 in the school, president of the class and all that. And for the first time in my life, I experienced a major failure. And not only that, this failure has a domino effect. See, my status in the US for passing the exam, everything is hinging into it. I got to get my wife here. I got to make sure that I'm successful so I can start a family here. So when I failed, it felt like everything was crumbling down. It felt like the end of the world for me. And not only that, in the Philippines, there's this stigma of, oh, you failed. We have this common, what do you call this, saying, oh, bumagsak ka. I say it in our language, bumagsak ka. Sometimes they make you feel like, oh, you're not that good. Oh, you're stupid or something like that. So things are just all crumbling around me. It's like all the negativity, right? So how did I bounce back from that? It wasn't easy. I took the exams again. And guess what? I failed again. I failed twice in the state of Texas. I have to take the third exam in another state because in Texas, if you failed twice, you have to do all this schooling and everything. I don't have time for that, right? So I applied in another state. I believe it was state of Indiana, where they don't have a ton of requirements and you can take as many exams as you want. And guess what? I failed again. I failed 3 times, guys. 3 times. And finally, on the 4th time, I passed. I passed. But I want to share with you the thinking behind this, okay? How in the world did I have, or how did I get the strength to keep fighting, to keep trying 4 times? 4 times. To some people, they might say, you know what? This is it. This is not for me. I ain't going to be a physical therapist, right? But to me, and I don't mean to sound religious, but it was all by the grace of God. It was all by the word of God that encouraged me. You can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. And without the grace of God, I wouldn't have done it. Okay. So without the grace of God, I wouldn't have done it. It's really a tough situation to be in. But one thing that really encouraged me is a quote by William D. Brown. He said, this quote says, failure is never a person. It is just an event. So when I realized that failure is never a person, it is just an event, then I changed my perspective. I looked at myself differently. You know what? I'm not a failure. This exam is just an event that I have to conquer, an event that I have to keep preparing for again and again and again. We have this saying in the Philippines, kahit ilang beses itutumba kita, which means in English, however many times will it take, I'm going to take you down. So that really helped me also in making sure I don't give up. So in my mind, if I have to take this exam 10 times, 20 times, I know it's tough to say, right? In my mind, I'm not going to give up until I pass it. Because if you don't give up, if you keep going for it, in the end, guess what? You win, right? if you already made up your mind, you're not going to stop until you pass this exam, you overcome this struggle. In the end, you win. You only lose if you give up. Okay? That's me. That's my opinion. That was my thinking process. So for those of you who have failed the exam, what I'm saying to you now is don't give up. This is just an event. You are not a failure. Taking the exam, the results of the exam does not identify you. Check this out. When we see patients, I've been a therapist for 25 years now, 98, 2023. Whenever I see a patient, do they ask, hey, Bert, how many times did you take the exam? No, right? All they care about is, are you improving their quality of life? Are you an awesome therapist that goes in there and your intention is to help them improve their quality of life? That's all they care about. Because you might have passed the exam the first time, but if you're a crappy physical therapist, you're a crappy clinician, then guess what? It doesn't matter. You're crappy, right? So I hope this video encourages you. So 25 years now as a physical therapist, there's this thing we call the butterfly effect, right? The theory of that is when the butterfly flaps its wings, it can cause a typhoon or a strong storm down the road, meaning a small action can cause a domino effect down the road. In my case, that butterfly effect was, had I given up, then I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be an American citizen. See that flag behind me? I'm so proud to be an American citizen. I wouldn't be able to form a family. So we have 2 kids. Our daughter is 23. She graduated from University of Texas, San Antonio, BS Kinesiology. Our son is a sophomore right now in Texas A&M University, taking business and finance. And my wife, we just celebrated our 26 years wedding anniversary. And looking back from being married for 3 weeks and then leaving her, right? And now we're 26 years together, staying strong by the grace of God. All of these things happen because of the grace of God. And I want to give all the glory to the Lord. It's not because of my own strength, because apart from Him, I can do nothing. Apart from the Lord, I am nothing. All right. I'm just saying it right now. I now have a business. I run Rehabpreneur, where I teach physical therapists, occupational therapists, speech therapists, PTAs, CODAs. I teach them how to start their own home health contracting business. It is successful, again, because of the grace of God. God gave me this wisdom on how to run it the right way. I learned from mistakes. I learned from my failures. Failure is only wasted when you don't learn from it. But if you learn from your failure, then it's not wasted. You get better and better and better. And because if you fail the first time, then you know what not to do next, right? If you step on the hole the first time, then on the second time, you know not to step on that hole, right? So it's very basic. With that said, guys, I just want to encourage you, don't give up. If you're one of those therapists who are still preparing for the exam, keep at it. If you keep at it, you'll get it done. Don't give up. Remember, I took it 3 times and passed the 4th time. Am I ashamed of it? No. I always share this story to whoever I encounter that's going through the same situation. I tell them there's hope. I tell them, look, you can do this if you don't give up. And again, it boils down to, not to sound religious, but it's in the Bible. God allows these things to happen so that you can encourage the ones who go through it. I wouldn't be able to talk about failure with you guys, the ones who have failed, if I haven't experienced it. I know, I experienced it. It hurt. It hurt the first time. It hurt the second time. It hurt the 3rd time. But you know what? It's easy to go through something when you haven't failed. It's easy to celebrate wins, right? But what's the hardest thing is, how do you bounce back from a failure? How do you get up when you went down 3 times? How do you do that? Guys, I'm going to tell you right now, again, not to sound religious, it's by the grace of God. It is Him who gives you the ability to bounce back. It is Him who gives you the ability to produce wealth. Okay. That's one of my favorite quotes or verses in the Bible. I believe it's in Deuteronomy. It is him who gives you the ability to produce wealth. So if you're in that situation right now, you're on the verge of giving up and you feel like, you know what, that's it. Please don't quit. Don't give up. Unless you've made a decision, you don't want to do physical therapy anymore, then that's totally up to you. But I encourage you, don't give up. Press on. You can do this. All right? God bless.
Everyone. My name is Dr. Michael Koa. I just want to really go through and talk about my journey with the NPTE and becoming a licensed therapist and, what I've been doing since that time. I was looking to take the NPTE for the first time in 2017. In 2017, I was about to graduate from University of Maryland, Baltimore in May, and I was taking my first attempt in April 2017. As I was finishing up my last clinical rotation, I started studying. I was doing things slowly, progressively through the rotation, and I had about a month also when we were not in clinic at all. After taking that first exam, I didn't pass by about 42 points. And it was really challenging because it was like, okay, like you have all these celebrations, you have graduation, you have all of these things that you're looking forward to, and you can only like half celebrate them because you're just kind of trying to like look at like the other side of like, okay, I got to refocus and retake this exam. So that was where I was after graduation. So I kind of, circled back and said, okay, what should I be doing next? So what I did was I went on and I, signed up for a course, the PT final exam course. I kind of refocused where I was getting my information from to study for the exam. I changed my study schedule altogether. I was working part-time, but I kind of even shifted that a little bit so I had more time to commit. And when I took the second NPT the second time in July, I ended up not passing again, and it was even by less points, so less than 42 points short this time. For me, I think, the two main factors that really contributed to that were I don't think I was really over not passing the first time. I think that was still really weighing on me, and I really just felt a sense of embarrassment, frustration, a sense of annoyance, I guess, to be quite honest. And because you've just been going through this content for so much and the test is holding you back. After going through that, I really had to like dig deep in myself to like really know if like this is really what I wanted to do after going through all of that. And I just took some time off of studying. I took some time off of trying to look into different things, and I just took a break. And when I came back kind of with a renewed sense of what I wanted to do and how I was going to do it, I, set up another plan. I, met with some of my classmates that, were willing to help. I set up, going to an in-person course for 2 days. And, in October of 2017, I passed, and I passed with flying colors. It was, well above the passing rate. Everything had worked out. And, since that time, so much has happened and so much I'm thankful for. But, during those down moments, I always emphasize to new grads and students, two things.
And now for a quick shout out to our newest sponsor, Varela Financial. If you're a physical therapist and you have student loan debt, you got to talk to these guys. What makes them unique is that they view financial planning like running hurdles on a track. And for PTs, the first hurdle many of us run into is student loan debt. Varela Financial will help you get over that hurdle. They not only take the time to explain to you which plans you individually qualify for and how those plans work, but they also take the time to show you what your individual case looks like, mapped out within each option. So if you're looking for help on your student loan debt or any area of personal finances, we recommend working with them. I use Varela Financial personally, and they were able to help me lower my student loan repayment from about $1,800 a month down to about $135 per month simply by finding the right repayment plan that best fit me, my family, and our life goals. You can check them out at varellafinancial.com. Link is in the show notes if you need it for reference, and tell them the HET podcast crew sent you. And now back to the show.
The first thing being, there's so many things that happen in PT school. And I think that it's really hard for people to understand the intensity and commitment of going through PT school unless they've been through it themselves. So I think you should really give yourself grace in those moments to understand that you have really accomplished a lot to not only get into PT school, but to successfully complete it. And, going back to getting your actual degree, your diploma and your doctorate, and that's something that no one can take from you. You've put in so much work and energy and sacrifice to make that happen. So you should be really proud of yourself, regardless of how you are feeling once you get to the board exam itself. So since passing boards, what's been going on for me? So I've been working as a physical therapist for 5 years in Maryland and DC, working primarily with older adults. I have worked with the NPTE Maryland for a plethora of different things, primarily working as the director of DEI over the last 3 years. I have gone on to be a participant co-presenter in different courses. I have gone on to create some different initiatives that we've started within the chapter that have been really successful in terms of mentorship, our mentorship nights that we have monthly. I've gone on to kind of build up community partnerships with different schools throughout the state so that we can kind of show what it takes to get to our profession and also show, that we're here to support you at a young age, from elementary all the way through high school and in college as well. We want to support you in your journey to becoming a physical therapist in Maryland. The other thing that I'm also very proud of I've been able to do since that time is I've been able to create an organization called Live and Grow Mentorship, which since the time that I've graduated until now, it's been official since 2021, but I've always had a sense of wanting to help people at all levels of PT school, applying to PT school, while in PT school, and also as new graduates studying for the NPTE. I've been helping and trying to make sure that the underrepresented groups in our profession have the support that they need, and they're able to overcome some of the struggles that I had to overcome. And they feel seen, they feel heard, and they feel supported. And that's really been one of my main goals and focuses for me since I've, gone on to have my career. And, I think that anyone that's going through this, don't let it hold you. It's something that people go through, and you can go on and still have a great career, and you can go on and still do the things that you want to do. You just have to have that familial support system to help you get through it. And we're here to help. So feel free to reach out to any of us. And I know that we'll be able to get you to your next stop and get you to where you want to be.
Hi, I'm Nancy Smith, and I wanted to tell you my story of failure. And I wanted to say, as I start this story, that failure is not final and failure is not fatal. And why I say that is because while I was in PT school, I failed my kinesiology class. And actually, before I failed it with a failing letter grade, I had to withdraw from my kinesiology class. This actually put me back a whole year in my physical therapy program and caused me to have to figure out what I was going to do. So during that year, I completed another degree. I completed a BA in psychology, which I call my accidental degree. I wasn't supposed to get that degree, but I find that it helped me greatly in patient care. It also helps me in my current role as a professor of physical therapy. Since failing that initial class in PT school, I went on to complete my master in physical therapy degree. And about 5 years after completing my Master of Physical Therapy degree, I went on for my Transitional Doctor of Physical Therapy degree. I did pass my licensure exam on the first try after completing my Master of Physical Therapy degree. And I did complete my Transitional Doctorate. I also became a board certified geriatric specialist, and I have been teaching for the last 13 years at Winston-Salem State University in North Carolina. And I completed my PhD in curriculum instruction from North Carolina State University. I'm here to tell you that persistence matters, and that if you failed in your life, that it's only a road bump, and just keep on trying, because you just have to sometimes figure out that failure is not necessarily your destination. It's just a speed bump on the road. And sometimes you just have to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and keep moving.
Hi, my name is Dr. David Friedberg, and I am a doctor of physical therapy. I'm here to tell you that it took me multiple attempts to pass this NPTE, and I am very proud to tell you that. I am very proud to share that with you. Why am I proud? Because it helped me get to where I'm at currently and where I'm going to be, because it built up character. It built up strength inside of me. It showed me what I can overcome, what I can go through. I recognize that either your story has power over you, or you have power because of your story. So I said to myself, I have power because of my story. I have power because it took me multiple attempts. I have power because I had to stand back up. I have power because of my story. So be proud of your journey. You are not alone. Continue to stand up, because you are worthy of passing this exam, and you can do it. So believe in yourself and go get it. You will pass.
Hi, I'm Matt. I took the NPTE over 10 years ago. Never forget. I studied for that exam for months. Books, took all the practice tests. I was ready. Took the test, walked out of there, felt super confident in myself. And the next day when I went to check my score, because back then you could do that, I saw the word fail. And the worst part about it was that I failed by less than 10 points. And I'm the kind of person, if I fail something, I would rather just bomb it and do terrible on it than to miss it by just a little bit. And I'll be honest, I felt pretty bad. I felt depressed. I felt down. I felt like a failure, because all that training and education and studying, I didn't pass the big exam. But I said, well, can't do anything about it. Studied up, took the next one, and passed it. And I will tell you, all through my career, of all the places that I've worked, people I've worked with, the patients who've come to me, not a single one of them has ever asked me, what did you get on your board exam? How many times did you take your board exam? No one's ever cared. A patient has never turned me down because I had to take the board exam twice. And actually, really the only time we ever talk about it, I know myself, is when I talk to other colleagues who didn't pass it on the first time. And we swap those stories of what we did from the time we maybe failed it the first time to what we've passed it on the second or even third time. So if you didn't make it through this time, hey, don't worry. You get to join a pretty exclusive club.
Next up, we have Dr. Monica Carruth sharing with us her story about failing the NPTE.
I'm glad Scott asked me to do this, and I think this is a perfect place to do this. I have failed the NPTE 3 times. The first time it came as a shock. I was disappointed, felt like a failure, didn't really want to talk to anyone. After, tried it again second time, same thing happened, felt defeated, but I kept going because I knew this was my passion and I knew this was my purpose, to be in the field of physical therapy. After the third time, I decided to take the NPTE Final Frontier practice exam, and I was successful on my 4th attempt. Not only did I start off as a staff physical therapist, but I became a business owner, and I've been successful doing this since 2012, obtaining my transitional DPT. Here I am today, in Monaco at the palace. And I can say, because I kept going, I'm now living my dream. Hey, everybody. I wanted to just go ahead and record this video. This time of year, it's always awesome to see all the Facebook posts about PTs and PTAs that passed their licensure exam. But inevitably, there's someone that didn't. And I want to share my story. My story is, hi, first off, I'm Sean Bagby. I am a PTA athletic trainer. And the first time I took my board exam in both athletic training and PTA, I failed both. I took my AT boards on a Sunday morning back in the arcane days where you had to go someplace and you had 3 parts and you're pulled out for different parts during the test. And then I turned around Monday morning and took my PTA boards and failed those. It was a life lesson, and you can't prepare for everything at once. And you need to take your time. But I want to tell you what I've done since then, is you can kind of see that starting from failure is not the worst thing in the world. So my day job is I'm the Chief Operations Officer for a company I co-founded called Rehabilitation Performance Institute. We are a 13-clinic outpatient physical therapy company located in Indiana, Illinois, and Kentucky right now. I have been named the PTA of the Year nationally by the APTA in the past. I have won multiple awards for my service to the profession on a state and national level. I have been honored enough to be one of the mentors for the next generation of Centennial Scholars through APTA. And I have been lucky enough to teach in multiple universities, teaching leadership in PTA programs, and then guest lecturing in PT programs about PTA teams, as well as teaching about the profession in general. With that being said, the other thing that I am most honored to do is serve on a licensure board. I was the first PTA appointed by the governor of Indiana to be on a licensure board. So that has allowed me to serve our profession and protect our communities by making sure that the quality and standards of physical therapy are met. So the biggest thing I want to leave you with is this. Failure is not permanent. Failure is a starting point. It's your job to move forward and keep learning from your mistakes and retake your test. And if you want to be the best physical therapist assistant there is, don't let failure of one test stop you. Dive back into your determination and go at it again, and you'll get it. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Have a great day.
All right. Hey, what's up, guys? My name is Stephen Dunn. I'm a licensed physical therapist since 1998. I want to tell you my story of graduating in 1998 and failing my boards. Now, they weren't called the same thing as they're called now, the NPTE or whatever it's called now. Back then, it was not called that, and you could take it whenever you wanted to. You didn't have to wait and take it on certain dates. You could just go to a testing center and take it any Saturday you wanted. And I graduated on 8/8/98, and I took my boards probably within the month, and I ended up failing my boards on the first time by one question. If I'd have got one more question right, I would have passed. And in all fairness, I was a dumb kid at that point in time, and I was more excited about going to the LSU football game later that day and tailgating and watching the game than I was about the actual test. Again, pretty stupid, but it is what it is. And I retook the test the second time. I was able to take it within about a month. I didn't have to wait as long as people have to wait now, it doesn't seem. And I failed again, second time. And this time I failed by 2 points, 2 questions. And so I was consistently right on the cusp. And then I took it again about a month later, maybe 3 weeks later. And this time I passed by maybe 2 or 3 questions. It was very close. So I was consistent in that same range the whole time. But that was 1998. 8/8/98 was my graduation date. And by the time November, I was licensed, or I'd passed my board. And with that said, I opened my first business, physical therapy business, in 2001 after practicing for a couple of years out in California. I moved from New Orleans to California to work. The Balanced Budget Act had just taken effect, and the Medicare market was pretty crazy. Changed up with the cap was born, and HMOs were shortly born thereafter. And so it was an interesting time, but I moved to Austin in 2004 and opened my studio in Austin in 2005, Core Therapy and Pilates. And we offer a holistic physical therapy with a Pilates and gyrotonic studio as well. And we've now been open here for 18 years, had a lot of success. It's been an interesting time since COVID, but it's been a fun process. And so my message to all of you guys who have struggled with the boards or failed the boards is it's okay. It's going to be all right. Don't give up, and don't focus on tailgating in a football game. That's one thing. That's one advice I have for you. Focus on your test. But with that said, don't give up. And that is not an indication of your success as a physical therapist or as a business owner, because I've been helping people for 25 years now. And I've helped a lot of people with a lot of different conditions, mostly back pain and neck pain, shoulder pain, hip pain, but lots of stuff. And so don't let a little bit of a setback get to you, because the boards is just a test to see if you can get through all the stuff you learned in school. When you start practicing, you're going to do about a fraction of that stuff. You're going to do the things that you like. You're going to do that. You're going to work in a setting that is very specific. And so you're not going to need to know all of that information. Trust me, I haven't thought about wound care since 1998. I haven't thought about a lot of stuff that I learned in school since 1998. So just want to share that with you guys. Thanks, F. Scott, for putting this together. I think it's important for people to know that it's not the end of the world. I know a good friend, he's went to law school and he failed the bar and he never took it again. Never took it again because of his pride and his ego. And now he's like a glorified bookkeeper because he was not willing. He had an initial degree in accounting, grad degree in law, and now he's a glorified bookkeeper because he never went back to retake that test. So don't let your pride and ego get in the way. Go knock it out, guys.
I'm Julie McGee. I currently serve as the Assistant Director for Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging, the program in physical therapy at Washington University in St. Louis, WashU. This is my story of going from failure to success. I have been a physical therapist for almost 17 years. I graduated in 2007 from Alabama State University, which is one of the HBCUs that house a physical therapy program. I say that because I'm a very proud graduate of an HBCU, and I feel honored to have graduated from an institution where I had several luminaries that I was able to learn from, and one particular was Dr. Linda Woodruff. So in the spring of 2007, I was on my terminal rotation, and then you could not take the exam early. I knew I was scheduled to sit for the exam in June, and I was on my terminal rotation in Birmingham, Alabama, which was a split rotation between a hospital and an outpatient ortho setting in a sports medicine clinic. Sports clinic that was a sports medicine clinic that was affiliated with the Andrews Institute, and I knew that was where I wanted to work. I completed that rotation, and I had a job offer, so I was excited I would be going to another clinic that was in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, home of the University of Alabama, where the PT providers were the physical therapists at the University of Alabama. So thought I had everything lined up, had my job, being a PT, ATC. So I am an ATC as well as a PT. And I get to graduate, won the minority, the APTA's Minority Excellent Award for a student. So I had what I thought was pretty good momentum. Now, in the time that I'm living in Birmingham, I'm living with one of my best friends, and I was sleeping on his couch or an air mattress at times, but the air mattress sprang a leak. So it was some days I would sleep on a air mattress or float on the air mattress is what I would call it, or sleep on a couch with springs sticking in my back, going to clinic every day. So all those things. And when I look back on it, I wasn't in an environment that was conducive to studying best. But I tried to make the most of it because I was a broke college student and I knew I had to go to work. And there was a lot of pressure on for the environment that I would be in, a lot of pressure to get done, to succeed. So I graduate May 2007, sit for my exam in June, and I failed. It wasn't terrible. I was close to passing. But again, I didn't study like I wanted to for whatever reasons, but I failed and I was devastated. But within a week, I was going to work. So I was hired in this clinic and I came on as an ATC with the expectation that I would take the test again. And in those days, you could sit for the exam fairly frequently. It wasn't only offered 4 times a year like it is today. So I sat for the exam again in about, I think it was late August. So I had taken the test in June and failed. I go to work and I'm working in the clinic and I am studying every day, between every break, before work, after work. And I'm thinking, I'm for sure going to fail this time. I have a very short window. I have all this pressure on me to perform, again, to succeed, because I didn't know what would happen if I failed twice, having a job and knowing that, people still took a chance on me. So it comes to the exam day. I go away, I take the exam. And when I left, I think I got in my car and I probably broke down crying because I just knew this time, without a doubt, I failed the exam, got my results, and I would not even open them up. So I go back to clinic. Everybody's asking me, when do you get your results? I said, about a week. So I got the email, and I just wouldn't open them. I went to work the next day, and everybody's asking. And my boss at the time comes to me and says, well, how'd you do on your test? And I just told him, I said, honestly, I don't know because I wouldn't open my email to even find out. And he was like, that's the strangest thing ever. So it was just this immense fear of failing again. And what would that mean? What would that mean for me, especially? So I go home and I'm still roommates with my best friend now, not just sleeping on the couch. Thankfully, I'm able to buy a bed at least because I make a little bit of money at this point. So no more air mattresses and no more couches. And I asked my roommate if he'll come and open my email for him because I just wouldn't look at it, wouldn't dare look at the score. And he told me no. He was like, I will not do it. This is something you did. You know the work you put in, so you have to do it. I took about 10 minutes and just gathered myself, went in, opened the email, and there I see this P. That's all I see. P, I passed. And the relief I felt was just tremendous because I felt like I was carrying the weight of a lot of things on me to be successful. And I'm sure that attributed to part of why I initially failed. Coming from an HBCU, I felt like when I didn't pass the first time, that I had let a lot of people down because it was people who were going to question why this program existed. Being in Alabama at the time, there were only 3 programs, and Alabama State was the newest. So it was one of those times where I just thought, well, here's something that people will use to say that we're not good enough for some reason. And then me, being the only person of color, let alone a Black male who was a physical therapist, I felt like it was a reflection on somebody is going to use this against me. To say that, oh, I was only hired for these reasons or all these things that I took on. So I went in saying that I was going do my absolute best. And I was going to show that I knew what I was doing. I knew why I should be here, and nobody let me in. I was very deserving. So I took that mentality. I buckled down and I worked hard. Within a year, I was managing the clinic. I had no prior experience with running a business and or management, but I knew I could work hard. And we got the first quarter results when I took over that year, and we had made a profit. So we got a clinic bonus. Now, I don't even know how I did this. I don't know how this happened, but it worked. So there was the first taste of success. Went on to open a satellite clinic that grew from 2 days, 2 half days to 2 full days to then 3 full days eventually. So I was bouncing around from place to place, just putting in the work, working hard. Because again, the very thing that I knew that this test, I couldn't let it define me. I couldn't let that failure define me. Now, it drove me for a while, I'll say, but it wasn't my defining factor because I still knew what success looked like. I knew what hard work looked like, and I knew the things that I did know, and I knew I didn't. And I was always eager and willing to learn more, to be better. So I went on, I managed another clinic, and then I had my first opportunity to teach, which was back at Alabama State. And so Alabama State had given so much to me, it was an opportunity for me to go back and give something to my alma mater and to do something that I love. So I started as a part-time faculty member, or I was a full-time faculty member, but I was only teaching 50%, and the other 50% of my time was in university athletics. So I got to do all the rehab for university athletes. So this was a way I was like, well, this marries two things that I'm interested in. And I don't have to work quite as much. I don't have to worry about all the things that come with running a business. And it's a new challenge. So here I am, the guy who failed his exam, and I'm now teaching students, and I'm helping them navigate education. And I didn't hesitate to share when I failed my exam. And it was something that I thought they needed to hear it, because if I still made it here, then they could too, that failure was not the final destination. There's a quote by Samuel Beckett that I heard, and I just have kind of adopted. It's fail, fail again, and fail better. So I fail, and I'm sure I failed again over and over it throughout my journey, but I've learned to fail better, to be better, and to not let that failure be my final destination. It pushed me, it drove me, and it's allowed me to be where I am today, where I get to marry another passion of mine, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, and really thinking about how we interact from a PT education standpoint, changing the culture of programs, increasing opportunities for all, thinking about how we see, hear, and value all of our learners, so our learners will go out and know how to see, hear, and value all of our patients and clients that we interact. That one moment that honestly, for the longest time, I thought would have limited me has only fueled me. I won awards. I have been invited to speak. I got to speak at the Southeastern Conference medical teams meeting. I got to speak at the Pac-12 medical teams meeting. I'll be speaking at several different organizations. I get to speak on inclusive leadership. All these things that matter to me. And failure was not a end point, it was a beginning. And really, I would say it was a starter. It just showed me that I could still do it, that I was not defined by a one-time, or even for anything else, a 2-time of failure of a test. I was not a failure. I failed in this moment. I failed at this thing, but if I didn't let that failure stop, and I could learn from it, see it, use it to fuel me, it's only made me more successful today. So that's my story. I'm Julie McGee. I'm proud failure, first time failure on the NPTE exam, and a successful physical therapist, clinician, and change agent. Thank you.
Hi, this is Dr. Lisa Van Hoos, and I was asked to tell you about my failure story. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, where do I start? Because I have a failure story every day. I think that if you are courageous and creative, every day you're going to try something that does not work, which the world will tell you is a failure. I tend to see it as an experiment because ultimately I try to be childlike. I try to be a scientist, a researcher, and all of those things mean that you will fail. The intention of this was to talk about the NPTE, the National Physical Therapy Examination, and the fact that I am one of many who failed it on my first attempt. And I failed it, I think it was one question, if I remember correctly, which was painful, right? Where it's like you're right on the cusp. Sometimes I wonder if it feels better if you just like have a huge deficit. But I do remember thinking, okay, I failed it. What's next? And so there was a moment of panic, a moment of shame, a moment of guilt, a moment of what did I not do right? But I remember ultimately thinking, okay, that was a good experiment. And now I know what the test is like. So how do I need to prepare myself differently, right? Because part of an experiment is once you see the results, is then coming up with a hypothesis of why those results happened and changing your methodology. So I say that to let you know that that failure is part of the success cycle. Own it. I would love for us to normalize failure so that people aren't hiding in the bushes, not wanting to talk about it, but so that also other people can benefit from your story and learning, okay, here's what I did and this did not work for me. Because maybe that may save them some guilt, some shame, some time. I'm in their process. As you prepare for NPTE or just anything in life, go into it with curiosity and courage, knowing that experiments, failures are part of the process. As one person who has failed, I celebrate you. Define the behavior, define the results, but those things don't have to define you. Good luck to each of you. Bye.
Well, I hope that episode was entertaining as much as it was informational and educational. If you enjoyed this episode or any of our past episodes, we ask you to please subscribe to the podcast and leave us a rating and review. And please share out the episodes to those who you feel may be able to benefit from them. We also urge you to follow us on all social media platforms at HET Podcast and let us know what topics or experts you would like to hear from in future episodes. And just as a reminder, none of the information on today's show should be considered medical advice. It's simply infotainment or edutainment to help educate our audience. For medical advice, we always advise you to reach out to your preferred medical professionals, and we'll see you on the next show.